The stars above the Persine cluster were quiet, too quiet for a region known for trade ships and pirate signals. But tonight, something strange had happened, and no one could explain it. Across 5 star systems, deep space stations started blinking. Red, not from enemy attacks or power loss, but because of a signal, a human signal. No one could understand it. The voice was distorted, old and human, repeating just 3 short lines again and again. The words made no sense to alien ears, but still, it gave them a strange chill they couldn't shake off. The Zorth Dominion was the first to respond. Their warships were already nearby, orbiting. A gas giant for fuel, their admiral, Jacques Verne, heard the signal himself. It came through his command bridge speakers without warning. Every officer in the room turned to look at him. Jacques wasn't scared, not yet. He laughed it off, calling it primitive human garbage. But his claws tapped the console nervously as the message repeated again. It wasn't just noise, it felt like it had teeth. The Cathil swarm didn't laugh. They took the signal as a threat, a warning perhaps, and sent in their hive probes. To follow the path of the transmission, they moved quickly, buzzing through space like angry hornets. On the other side of the galaxy, back on Earth, inside a hidden command center under Mars' northern pole, Ethan Cole stared at a blinking alert. On his screen, it was a ping, simple and weak, but it carried an ID marker from Earth's old war-era systems. One not used for over 100 years. Ethan was young, but he wasn't dumb. He knew what those codes meant: deep classified history, something even Earth's current military avoided talking about. He contacted Orbital Command immediately. "I think one of our code protocols just came online," he said to Commander Nina Brooks. The woman raised an eyebrow, then stood slowly. "That can't be," she whispered. "We buried those decades ago." "Yeah," Ethan replied, his voice shaking. "But someone just dug one up." By morning, 5 alien fleets were already converging on the signal source, not to fight, at least not yet, but to investigate, to collect data, to steal human secrets if possible. They didn't think of humans as a threat. Just clever upstarts. Relay 7, the source of the signal, floated quietly above a blackened planet once called Caldas 4. It had been destroyed in a forgotten war before most aliens even discovered Earth. The relay station was thought to be destroyed, too, but it wasn't. It had powered itself back on using old nuclear cells and sent out its cry into the dark. The aliens didn't know that the signal was a lock, and by receiving it, they were already inside the vault. Meanwhile, Earth's own fleet, small and outnumbered, was holding back. Nina Brooks didn't want to draw attention, but she also knew something the aliens didn't. This wasn't an attack signal. This was a warning, but would anyone listen? Inside his small apartment aboard the Earth Outpost Station, Ethan Cole opened the original message. It was in broken English, filled with code words he didn't recognize, but one part made his blood run cold. "This is Captain Vaughn," the voice said, quiet and distant. "If this message is heard by non-Earth forces, turn back now. This protocol is not for you. This world is dead. Let it stay that way." Ethan played it 5 times, then sent it straight to Nina Brooks, who ordered a full lockdown on Earth's old system vaults. But she was already too late. The signal had gone out to everyone. The Araka Combine, the biggest of the alien empires, laughed at the message, calling it human superstition. Their admiral even broadcast a mocking reply back toward Earth. "We will see what your little ghosts can do." But what none of them knew, what even Earth had forgotten, was that the signal didn't come from a beacon. It came from a switch, and when that switch flipped, ancient systems spread across forgotten sectors started to wake up. In the darkness of an asteroid belt 2 jumps away, a black satellite blinked green, then red, then began rotating toward the nearest ship. It had been asleep for over a century. Now it was ready again. And in the far corner of Earth's deep memory core, a single classified entry logged itself as active. Protocol Warden 9. Trigger confirmed. The galaxy didn't know what that meant yet, but they were about to find out. because one lonely human voice, long dead and nearly forgotten, had just whispered into the void. And the void was listening, and from that moment on, nothing would ever be the same again. The alien fleets didn't stop, even after the first warnings. Even after one scout ship vanished without a trace, they moved faster toward the source of the signal. Relay 7. The station didn't look special. It was small, broken. Its outer hull burned from old battles. It floated above the ruined planet Cultus 4 like a forgotten grave marker, cold and lifeless. But inside it, something had come alive, something old, something buried deep by humans a long time ago. The first to arrive were the Zorth Dominions. Elite boarding team. Their black armor shimmered in the dim light as they broke through the airlock and stepped inside the station. They found empty hallways, frozen consoles, broken lights, and a sound. A voice played on repeat. "Protocol Warden 9 armed," said the voice, calm and human. "Non-human access denied." The Zorth ignored the voice. They searched deeper, looking for weapons or tech to steal. They found a large black box. In the center room, pulsing with faint blue light, one of the engineers touched it, and it hissed with static, releasing new data into the room's broken systems. Outside, in orbit, Admiral Jaka Verne sat aboard his command ship, the Vortex Claw, watching the live feed from inside the station. He narrowed his eyes. The human voice was strange, filled with regret and warning. But there was something else under the voice. Something coded. "Keep going," he ordered. "Bring that box up to the ship." At the same time, 2 more alien fleets were arriving, the Cathel Swarm and the Araka Combine. The Cathel sent bio-drones, floating creatures filled with scanning tools and weapons, but none of the drones came back, not one. They simply vanished from radar. The Araka Combine waited, watching silently. Their dreadnoughts formed a wall in orbit. Powered weapons ready. They didn't trust humans. And they trusted the Zorth even less down on Earth. Commander Nina Brooks stared at the same signal logs in horror. She knew what Protocol Warden 9 meant. It was not just a warning, it was a chain reaction long ago. During Earth's last great space war, Warden 9 was a final defense line, made to activate only when Earth was under full-scale invasion. It was built in secret, scattered across space. Forgotten even by most human governments, no one was ever supposed to activate it. Not even by accident. Nina opened a private file buried deep in Earth's command archives. The file had one name at the top, Captain Derek Vaughn. He had commanded a deep space fleet 100 years ago. He was believed to be dead, lost in the silent collapse war. But this signal, this voice, it was his. Ethan Cole sat nearby. Watching the decoded logs, he noticed something strange. The signal was not just a warning. It was changing every few hours. "Ma'am," he said to Nina, "the message isn't just repeating. It's evolving." She turned to him quickly. "What do you mean evolving?" He showed her the waveform. New data lines had appeared, schematics, power cycle triggers, remote access locks, all hidden in the sound file. "This isn't just a recording," Ethan said slowly. "It's a command." Back at Relay 7, the Zorth soldiers didn't know they were being watched. Hidden sensors across the station were now active, silently scanning all movement. When one soldier tried to remove the black box from its pedestal, the lights flickered and the station locked down. Metal doors slammed shut and the lights turned blood red. The voice returned, louder this time. "Protocol breach detected. Defense systems arming." On the Vortex Claw, Admiral Jaka stood up in shock. "Get them out of there," he shouted, but it was too late. Inside the station, a thick gas filled the corridors, and the feed went dark. The other fleets reacted quickly. Cathel ships moved back. The Arakai locked weapons, and Earth's outpost ship, the USS Trailblazer, arrived. At the edge of the system with a small human team aboard, Ethan Cole was now on the front lines, alongside pilot Jake Moran and code expert Leah Rivers. They watched as Relay 7 glowed softly in the dark, like a dying star trying to breathe. Leah leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the signal. "That box inside," she said. "It's not just a command center, it's a relay for something else." "Something not in this system," Jake frowned. "What kind of something?" Leah looked at them both, her voice low. "A weapon." Ethan's heart pounded. "You mean the signal is waking up weapons across space?" Leah nodded. "Not just any weapons, old ones, pre-AI, pre-treaty, the kind that doesn't ask questions." Before firing, suddenly, one of the Araka sea ships exploded. A single bolt of blue energy had struck it from somewhere. Not from the station, but from deep space. Another ship turned to flee and it was hit too, one by one. The fleet's outer ships were destroyed by invisible fire. And yet no one saw the source. The Trailblazer picked up a strange pattern energy spikes from old satellite locations. Hidden in asteroid fields, moons, and dead systems. "All waking up at once," Ethan whispered. "They're waking up the Warden grid." The aliens didn't believe it. They thought humans were bluffing or hiding a super weapon. But Earth wasn't doing anything. This was all automatic, triggered by curiosity, pride, and ignorance. And now it was too late to turn it off inside the station. One camera flickered on again, showing a single room lit in blue light. A faded sign above the doorway said, "Project Pandora. Do not disturb." Ethan stared at it, cold fear running through him. This wasn't just a warning system. This was something humans themselves had once feared, so much that they locked it away in silence and darkness, and now that silence had been broken, and the darkness had started to move again. One voice, long dead, had spoken. And now the entire galaxy would have to listen, whether they wanted to or not. Ethan Cole stared out the window of the USS Trailblazer, watching the stars blur as the ship approached Relay 7. His mind was spinning with fear. The deeper they looked into the signal, the worse it became. This wasn't just a warning, it was a trigger. The black box found inside the old station had activated something across space. Ancient weapons Earth had once built during its darkest time. And now the galaxy had no idea what it had awoken. Leah Rivers, the code expert, sat quietly across from him. Her eyes locked on her datapad. She had been trying to break into the layers of the signal's code for hours. "There are patterns in here," she said softly. "Buried under encryption even I don't recognize." Jake Moran, their pilot, was sharpening a small combat knife, leaning against the bulkhead with one leg crossed. He was always calm, but even he seemed tense. "So let me guess," Jake said. "We're flying straight into a cursed graveyard full of angry ghost weapons." Ethan forced a small smile. Something like that, when they arrived at Relay 7, the scene was quiet, but strange. Debris from the destroyed Zorth ships floated nearby, and the air was thick with static. Like the station was humming in a language only machines could understand. Their shuttle docked at a secondary port on the station, and they stepped inside, weapons ready, lights flashing red above them. The smell of burnt metal filled the air. The halls were quiet, but too clean. Like someone or something had recently passed through. As they moved deeper, they reached the same room where the Zorth team had found the black box. But it was gone now instead. A new chamber had opened behind a hidden wall. Inside was a dark room glowing with a soft blue light. Ancient human symbols were etched on the walls, and a large holographic map hovered in the center. The map showed dozens of red dots across space. Blinking slowly, Leah walked closer. Reading the map, "These are old satellite IDs," she whispered. "They're active again." Ethan pointed to the corner of the room, where a recording had started to play. A man's voice, calm, tired, full of pain, began to speak. "This is Captain Derek Vaughn," the voice said. "If you're hearing this, then Earth is no longer in control of the system you are in." The room fell silent. Even the buzzing from the ship's system seemed to quiet down. "I activated Warden 9. During the final days of the collapse," the voice continued. "We had no choice. The enemy was inside our gates, and Earth could not afford mercy anymore." Leah looked at Ethan, eyes wide. "This isn't just a defense system. This is a doomsday grid." Captain Vaughn's voice echoed again. Warden 9 is not meant to fight wars. It's meant to end them. Ethan felt cold inside. We need to shut it down, he said, but Leah shook her head. We can't, she replied. Not from here. The command center is not on this station. It's remote far from this system, and Earth doesn't even know where it is anymore. Outside the station, more alien ships had arrived. The Arakachi Combine had sent 2 dreadnoughts and a fleet of cruisers. One of their commanders opened a communication line to the Trailblazer. This is Commander Varek of the Araka'i Combine, the alien growled. You will hand over the station, or we will take it by force, Ethan responded firmly. You don't understand what you're dealing with. This place isn't a weapon, it's a key. But the Araka'i didn't listen. They powered up their weapons and aimed directly at Relay 7. Back inside, Leah was still decoding the signal. She found something strange hidden inside a piece of a blueprint. It looked like a weapon, but unlike anything modern, it was massive, with no clear power source and no pilot section. This is part of a kinetic system, she said. It doesn't fire lasers or missiles. It throws objects, heavy ones, fast enough to break moons. Jake raised an eyebrow. You're saying Earth built a gun that throws rocks so hard they become bombs? Leah nodded. That's exactly what I'm saying. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and another warning played, this time in multiple alien languages. Defense satellites online. Targets detected. One of the Araka'i cruisers was hit instantly. A long invisible rail fired from a hidden satellite above a nearby moon. The ship didn't explode, it just vanished, crushed by the force. Now the aliens panicked. Some ships tried to flee. Others started firing blindly into space, trying to destroy what they couldn't see. The Trailblazer was hit by shockwaves but survived. Inside, the crew scrambled to send a message back to Earth. Ethan spoke directly to Nina Brooks. Commander, it's real. Warden 9 is active, and it's not stopping. Nina's voice came through, shaken. I know, we just lost 3 probes in Sector 12. The grid's waking up all over the place. She paused, then added, Ethan, find out how to shut it down, or how to survive it. Back on Relay 7, the system map shifted again, showing a countdown. Leah guessed it was targeting cycles, and each red dot would fire in a set pattern across dozens of systems. We need to get out of here, Jake said. Already pulling them toward the shuttle, Ethan hesitated for a moment, staring back at the flickering lights and the ghost of Captain Vaughn's voice still playing softly. We buried this part of history, Ethan whispered, and now it's digging itself out. As they launched away from the station, the sky behind them lit up with blue flashes. Satellites were awakening across space. And all of it started because someone played the wrong message at the wrong time. A single human voice, buried in an old machine, had now become the loudest weapon in the galaxy, and no one, not even the humans, knew how to stop it. The air inside the USS Trailblazer was heavy, not because of the oxygen levels, but because of what everyone had just seen. An Arakaci warcruiser had been destroyed without warning, not by missiles, not by lasers, but by something invisible, quiet and deadly. The ship had simply vanished, torn apart by a weapon no one fully understood. Ethan Cole sat in the command chair, eyes fixed on the main screen. Behind him, Leah Rivers worked quickly, fingers dancing across her datapad as she tried to track the growing number of red dots, each one a defense satellite coming online. Jake Moran paced behind them, his jaw tight. So let me get this straight, he said, voice low. Some ancient human system is waking up all over the galaxy, and no one, not even Earth, knows how to turn it off? That's right, Leah replied without looking up. And every empire out there thinks it's a threat launched by us. Outside the ship, the alien fleets were falling into chaos. The Cathal swarm had already pulled back, losing dozens of drones and 2 carriers. The Araka'i were still trying to form a defense wall, but now they were aiming at anything human. Commander Nina Brooks appeared on the Trailblazer's com screen. her face pale and serious. "Ethan, you need to send a warning to the entire region. They think we activated this on purpose." "But we didn't," Ethan said, frustrated. "They came to the signal, they touched the black box, they triggered the sequence." Nina nodded. "I know, but that doesn't matter anymore. The galaxy doesn't care who started it. They only care about who can stop it." Ethan knew she was right. This was bigger than pride or blame now. Whole fleets were at risk, and if Earth didn't act fast, they could be blamed for the destruction of half the outer rim. Leah found something strange inside the signal, a second layer of code, softer, hidden behind the main broadcast. It wasn't a command, it was a message. She played it through the Trailblazer speakers. A quiet voice came on, female this time, recorded long ago. "To any human officer who finds this," it said, "this protocol is locked until the threat is verified. If you are not authorized, do not proceed. Repeat, do not proceed." Jake blinked. "That's not helpful, we already proceeded." Ethan stood up. "No. That means someone locked the shutdown behind an identity check." He looked at Leah. "Can we bypass it?" Leah shook her head. "Not without old access keys, maybe even genetic signatures from the original command crew." Ethan's mind raced. Captain Vaughn had been dead for decades, and most of his crew with him. But maybe, just maybe, some part of his identity still existed in Earth's deepest archives. He sent an encrypted message to Nina Brooks, asking for any genetic trace, family history, or neural imprint left behind by Derek Vaughn. She promised to search, but time was short. Meanwhile, Admiral Jack Avern of the Zorth Dominion was growing angry. One of his ships had been struck trying to recover a debris sample. He now believed Earth was hiding a new weapon. He sent a warning across open channels. "If the humans do not surrender the Trailblazer and Relay 7 within the next 4 hours, we will consider this an act of war." Ethan played the message aloud for his team, then looked at Jake and Leah. "We're not giving up the station. Or ourselves." Leah spoke quietly. "Even if we do nothing, more satellites will come online. More fleets will die. This isn't about holding ground anymore." Jake crossed his arms. "Then what do we do? Run?" Ethan nodded slowly. "We leave Relay 7. But not to escape, we need to go deeper." "Deeper?" Jake asked. "Yes," Ethan said. "There's an old base. It was built during the same time as Warden 9. It might hold the master switch, if it still exists." They plotted a course to the abandoned system known as Delta Sigma 3. Once used as a test site for classified tech, it had been silent for over 80 years. But if anything was left, it would be there. As the Trailblazer jumped to faster than light travel, the crew didn't speak for a while, each of them thinking about the same thing. How could a single human voice cause so much fear? Back on Earth, Nina Brooks held an ancient storage crystal in her hand, recovered from a vault beneath the Arctic sector. It had one label burned into it: Project Warden, Emergency Command Key. She uploaded the data and found an old voice print. A final message left by Captain Vaughn before he died. The voice was calm, tired, and full of regret. "If this ever plays again," he said, "then we failed to keep peace. I pray someone smarter than me is hearing this. And I beg you, don't try to use the grid, just shut it down." Nina sent the voice print to Ethan, hoping it would help unlock the deeper layers of the system. But as the Trailblazer approached Delta Sigma 3, they were not alone. 3 Zorth ships had followed them through hyperspace, still believing Earth had launched the Warden grid as a secret weapon. Ethan prepared for battle, but he also knew if they didn't find the override soon, there might not be anything left to fight for, because Warden 9 wasn't just a forgotten system. It was a giant sleeping beast with no master. And now, it was wide awake, and the galaxy was running out of time. Space was not silent anymore, not since the Warden 9 system had begun to wake up. Ships vanished without sound, entire fleets fell apart, and systems that once glowed with trade and life were now filled with wreckage and fear. The signal that had started everything still echoed across the stars, playing again and again in its strange, cold voice. Protocol Warden 9 armed, targets locked. Orbit defense active. For many alien commanders, it was still hard to believe. How could a signal, a voice from a dead human captain, cause this much destruction? But disbelief didn't stop the weapons from firing. On the outer edge of Sector Theta 4, the Araka Combine moved one of their largest fleets toward what they believed was the core signal point. The flagship Blinding Star led the way, with nearly 70 warships behind it. They came with full power, ready to destroy whatever the humans had left behind. They expected resistance, maybe hidden weapons or mines, maybe even a human fleet. They did not expect silence, and that was the most terrifying thing of all. As the Blinding Star approached the system, one of its communication officers turned to the captain. "Sir, I'm getting a strange transmission again." "It's the same human voice," the captain scowled. "Mute it. We've heard enough of their tricks." But before they could shut the signal down, something else happened. The ship's lights flickered, the screens glitched, and soft whispers filled the control room. Not human voices. Not words either. Just sounds that made no sense but felt too real. Some of the younger officers covered their ears. Some screamed. The captain ordered a full system reboot, but it was already too late. Within seconds, 3 ships disappeared from radar. Not destroyed, just gone. No fire, no explosion, no trace. Panic spread. The rest of the fleet began to move backward, but the space around them started to twist. Unknown energy pulses danced across their hulls. Their ship shook like leaves in a storm. Inside the Trailblazer, Ethan Cole and his team watched everything from a hidden relay drone. Their faces pale. They didn't even get a chance to fire. Jake said quietly. Leah looked at her screen. "Warden 9 has entered its second phase." She whispered, "This isn't just defense anymore. This is full system lockdown." "What does that mean?" Ethan asked. She turned to him slowly. "It means it's not only destroying threats, it's isolating sectors, cutting off star routes, disabling drives. It wants to trap invaders, not just destroy them." Ethan stared in horror. "Like a spider web." Back on Earth, Nina Brooks watched dozens of system reports come in. Communications lost, fleets retreating, alien leaders demanding answers. They didn't believe Earth's claims of innocence anymore. Most of them thought humans had launched Warden 9 as a test of power, a warning to the galaxy. Even though Earth had no control over it now, they were blamed anyway. Earth's reputation was falling apart. And war seemed close. Inside the Trailblazer, Leah finally found something useful. A sequence in the signal code that changed every time a ship was destroyed. She linked it to an old Earth defense system called Black Lattice, a forgotten layer of satellites that were designed not just to attack but to learn. Every time a fleet moved against them, the system got faster, smarter, deadlier. Jake stared at the screen. "You mean, the more they fight it, the stronger it becomes?" Leah nodded. "Yes, and worse. It's starting to predict their moves." As they neared Delta Sigma 3, their only hope was finding the old base Ethan believed still held the original shutdown command. But 3 Zorth ships were already waiting for them there, weapons armed. Ethan opened a channel, trying to explain. "We're here to stop this, not control it," he said. "If you destroy us, you'll lose your only chance to shut Warden 9 down." But the Zorth commander didn't believe him. "You lit this fire, human," he growled. "Now burn with it." Lasers flashed, and the Trailblazer shook violently. Jake dodged between asteroids as Ethan tried to send proof to the Zorth ship's captain. Vaughn's last message, the shutdown code, anything. One of the Zorth ships was hit by a Warden defense satellite hiding behind a nearby moon. It broke apart in silence. The others finally stopped firing, too scared to continue. Ethan sent them the voice print Captain Vaughn's final words recorded decades ago. "This system is not a weapon of conquest." The voice said, "It is a wall built from our deepest fear. If it awakens, "We have failed to keep peace." The Zorth didn't reply. But they pulled back. Ethan turned to Leah. "Now we go in." They landed on Delta Sigma 3. The surface was gray and lifeless. An old command tower stood half buried in ash. Inside, they found the base powered by emergency cells, the lights flickering, the air cold. Leah plugged into a console and uploaded Vaughn's voice print. A deep mechanical voice responded. "Protocol identity confirmed. Shutdown path available. Warning, requires full manual input." Jake sighed. "Of course it can't be easy." Leah looked back. "The system can't be shut down from one place. We have to visit 3 command nodes across different systems. Inputting codes in person." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then we move fast, before the galaxy burns." Outside the base, the stars still echoed with the whisper of a dead captain's voice. And the warning he left behind was now louder than ever. One voice had awakened a storm, and now 3 humans had to race against time to stop it before the galaxy tore itself apart. The old base on Delta Sigma 3 was quiet, cold, and almost falling apart, but deep inside, behind metal doors and cracked walls, the system still worked. Ethan Cole, Leah Rivers, and Jake Moran stood in front of an ancient console, watching old lights blink slowly, as if waking up after a long sleep. Leah had uploaded the voice print of Captain Derek Vaughn, the man whose warning had started all of this. The machine recognized it, and the Warden 9 system had finally responded. "Protocol identity confirmed," said the robotic voice. "Shutdown path available." But what came next was not easy. The voice continued. "To complete the shutdown, 3 access nodes must be manually activated in sequence. Failure to complete all 3 will result in system reset and full redeployment." Ethan frowned. "So we have to travel to 3 different systems, enter codes by hand, and hope nothing goes wrong." Jake crossed his arms. "Sounds like a bad game level." Leah pulled up the locations. "One is in the old Zeta Rim, one deep inside the gas clouds of Virex, and the last is near Earth." That was the worst part. The node near Earth was in a restricted zone sealed off after a reactor meltdown 40 years ago. Nobody had gone near it since, not even Earth's own people. Still, they had no choice. Warden 9 was spreading faster. Satellites were waking up all across known space. Some were attacking ships without warning. Others were blocking star routes and shutting down communication hubs. Whole systems were going dark, and fear was turning into anger. Back on Earth, Commander Nina Brooks was under pressure from all sides. Alien leaders were sending demands every hour, blaming humanity for the chaos, calling for sanctions. Some even prepared for war, but Earth didn't want war. And Nina knew they had only one option left: trust Ethan and his small team to finish what Captain Vaughn had started. She sent them Earth's last known maps of the 3 nodes, including clearance codes from the old days, anything that might help. The Trailblazer jumped to the Zeta Rim first. The system was empty now, a graveyard of old ships and forgotten mining colonies. The first node was hidden beneath the surface of a small moon called Keros, covered in dust and ice. They landed their shuttle on the frozen ground, wearing thermal suits, breathing through heavy masks. Inside the moon was a chamber carved from black stone, with rusted cables running along the walls. Leah found the main console, buried under broken panels. She connected her tools and waited. "Access granted," the system said. "Node 1 unlocked." 1 green light blinked on the map, 2 more to go. They rushed back to the ship and jumped to the second system, Virex, a place of storms and gas. The node was hidden inside a station floating in the middle of toxic clouds. Once used to test shield technology, now it was barely holding together. As they approached, Ethan held his breath. "Hope it doesn't fall apart before we get there." Jake flew the Trailblazer with careful hands, slipping through clouds of red lightning and thick smoke. Inside the station, they moved fast, avoiding collapsed floors and broken walls. They reached the node chamber, and Leah uploaded the second code. "Node 2 unlocked," the voice said. 2 green lights, 1 more left. But suddenly, the station shook, alarms blared. A warning flashed on the screen. System detected hostile presence. Ethan's eyes widened. We've been followed. A group of rogue alien ships had been tracking them, thinking the humans were controlling Warden 9 for power. The aliens attacked without warning, thinking if they destroyed the Trailblazer, the system would stop. Jake rushed them back to the ship as explosions lit the sky behind them. He dodged through storm clouds and laser fire, barely keeping the ship in one piece. Back in space, they jumped to the final location, Earth's restricted zone. It was a place no one visited anymore. A dead station named Blackrock, once used for nuclear research, now considered cursed, but inside it, the final node waited. As they approached, Nina Brooks contacted them directly. "We're picking up multiple alien fleets," she warned. "They're coming your way fast. They think we're turning Warden 9 against them." Ethan replied, "But we're trying to shut it down. They won't wait to ask questions." Nina said, "Finish this quickly." The Trailblazer docked at the edge of Blackrock. The station creaked as they entered, the walls stained, lights flickering. It felt like a tomb. Leah found the final console inside an old control room. The panel was damaged, half melted. "We don't have time to fix it," she said. "I'll enter the code manually." As she worked, the station began to shake. Outside, the first alien ships had arrived and were opening fire. Jake ran to the shuttle controls, trying to hold the ship together. Ethan stood beside Leah, helping her guide the code input. "Almost there," she whispered, hands shaking. Then the voice spoke again, louder than before. "Node 3, unlocked. Shutdown sequence active. All satellites returning to sleep mode." A wave of silence spread across space. The red dots on the map turned off one by one. The deadly satellites powered down, and the sky grew still again. Back on Earth, Nina saw hundreds of system alerts disappear. Communications reopened, trade routes cleared, and ships stopped vanishing. The galaxy had been pulled back from the edge, and it all ended with 3 humans, a forgotten signal, and the voice of a long-dead captain. Ethan, Leah, and Jake returned to Earth as quiet heroes. No medals, no parades, but the galaxy would remember what they had done. They didn't launch the Warden 9 system, but they were the only ones who dared to stop it. And because of them, war was avoided. Peace, though fragile, had been given one more chance. The Trailblazer returned to Earth slowly, its engines damaged, and its hull scorched from the last battle. But inside, Ethan, Leah, and Jake were safe. They had completed the mission. All 3 Warden 9 nodes had been shut down. The deadly satellites had powered off. The signal had gone silent, and for now, the galaxy was calm again. But the moment they landed at Earth's spaceport, they realized things were not over, not even close. Crowds of military officers, politicians, and reporters waited, not with cheers, but with questions, suspicions, and angry faces. Ethan stepped out first, tired and sore, expecting at least a nod of thanks, but instead, a group of alien ambassadors demanded to see him. One, from the Arakai Combine, shouted, "Where are the control codes? We want every weapon location. You humans must give them up." Another from the Zarth Dominion pointed a clawed finger at Leah. "You created this nightmare. Give us full access to Warden 9. Commander Nina Brooks stepped forward to protect her team. "They didn't activate the system," she said calmly. "They saved all of us from it. But the aliens didn't listen. They believed humans had built Warden 9 not as a defense, but as a secret weapon, something Earth had hidden for the perfect time to rise and take over. Many feared Earth was testing the galaxy, showing its power to scare the other empires." Ethan tried to explain again and again. Warden 9 was made 100 years ago, during Earth's darkest war, and it was buried for a reason. But the fear had already taken hold. Alien fleets now orbited near Earth's outer defense line, not attacking, but watching, waiting, ready, and worse. Earth had lost the trust of its allies. Smaller planets began cutting off trade, colonies stopped sending resources, and human diplomats were pulled from many star systems. It was like a Cold War had started, slow and silent, but deadly underneath, in her office. Nina Brooks watched the reports come in with growing worry. She called Ethan in alone. He stood in front of her desk, bruised and worn. "You did the right thing," she told him. "But the galaxy doesn't believe in right or wrong anymore. They believe in survival." Ethan nodded slowly. "I never thought saving everyone would make us look like the enemy." She leaned back in her chair, her voice low. "They don't see what we did, they only see what we could do later." That night, Leah sat alone in the dark hallway near the Trailblazers' repair bay. Her hands trembling slightly, Jake walked over and sat beside her. Tossing her a small snack bar, "Eat, you'll pass out." She gave a weak smile. "Do you think we made a mistake?" Jake shook his head. "No, we saved lives. That's never a mistake. But we also reminded the galaxy of something," she said quietly. "We reminded them that humans aren't weak. And that scares them." Elsewhere, Ethan received a message from one of the old human vaults. A system technician had discovered something inside the last node they visited. It was a backup data file. Not part of the shutdown sequence, but something else entirely. A message from Captain Vaughn 1 that had never played before. Ethan opened the file, and the captain's voice echoed in the room. "If you've reached this point, it means Warden 9 has been shut down," the voice said. "But the fear it brings will not disappear. I built this system not out of hate," Vaughn continued, "but out of desperation. Earth was burning, and we had no friends, only enemies." He paused, and then said something Ethan didn't expect. "I didn't just create Warden 9, Vaughn said. "I created something else. Something deeper, a last failsafe buried far beyond known space. In case everything else failed." The file ended there, corrupted or incomplete. Ethan sat in silence, heart heavy. What was the failsafe? Was it still out there? Did anyone else know? He brought the message to Nina Brooks, who stared at it for a long time, then locked the file behind multiple clearance levels. "We won't tell the others," she said firmly. "Not yet. But if the galaxy turns on us," Ethan began. She looked at him sharply. "If that happens, we'll find another way, but we don't lead with fear. Not anymore." Meanwhile, small protests began across alien cities, some against humans, others in support of peace. Confusion spread like fire. Everyone was waiting to see what Earth would do next. Would it build more systems like Warden 9? Would it attack? Or would it disappear into silence again? Ethan knew one thing for sure. Even though the satellites were shut down and the signal was gone, Warden 9 had changed everything. The galaxy had seen what humans were once capable of. And that knowledge would never be forgotten. The voice of a dead man had shaken empires, and now Earth stood on the edge of history, feared, watched, misunderstood, and alone. But it had survived, and sometimes that was enough. For now, peace remained, but it was fragile, like glass floating through space. And Ethan, Leah, and Jake had a feeling it wouldn't last forever.